Welcome to Hot Flashes and Higher Self, the podcast where midlife becomes your awakening. I'm Soraya, a clinical hypnotherapist and rapid transformational therapist guiding women through perimenopause and beyond, embracing transformation rather than just symptom management. Each week, myself and inspiring women in wellness will dive into mindset shifts, somatic tools, spiritual practices, and the candid stories that move us towards our limitless selves. So, if you're navigating perimenopause, menopause, or simply just wondering what's next for me, then you're in the right place. Let's rise together, mind, body, and spirit. This is Hot Flashes and Higher Self. Hi, and welcome back to Hot Flashes and Higher Self. If you're new here, my name is Soraya. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist and RTT therapist and founder of Limitless Self, as well as being the host of Reconnect and Reset Women's Retreats in London. This podcast is your space for real talk and deep healing as we navigate perimenopause, menopause, and midlife together. So today we'll be talking about perimenopause. So I've had 5 kids, so I'm definitely no stranger to pregnancy. So when the symptoms first started, the mood swings, the sore boobs, the emotional ups and downs, I just assumed that I was pregnant again. I bought a test, more than one, when it was negative. I just didn't really understand what was going on because according to the test, I wasn't pregnant and it wasn't stress. But when I went to the doctor told me that I was in perimenopause, which kind of shocked me because I thought I was too young. I had no idea. I just knew about menopause, but nothing about perimenopause. This is all new territory for me. So I kind of, as you do, go online and Googled everything to find everything I could about symptoms and what I was feeling. So let's start there. Let's look at the definitions. According to the British Menopause Society, menopause is when your periods stop. And they say this is for more than 12 months. And it's due to the reduction and eventual loss of ovarian function. And this typically happens between 45 and 55, with the UK average being around 51. But perimenopause is the phase before menopause. So when your hormones start fluctuating, and it can begin in your mid-30s. But most women, me included, could feel it in their 40s. And according to the Mayo Clinic, the following are symptoms of perimenopause. So there's the irregular periods, which is when ovulation becomes more unpredictable. And the time between your periods may be longer or shorter, and your flow may be light to heavy, and you may skip some periods. And then come the infamous hot flushes, or as the Americans call them, hot flashes. And then you've got the mood changes and the fun vaginal and bladder problems. So you might leak more often, need to go or feel a stronger urge to pee. And I've got, unfortunately, personal experience with this because I run quite a bit. So I do half marathons. And I can tell you it's not the same now running as it was 5-6 years ago. I can not beat my personal best because of all my frequent trips to the toilet. So yeah, that's a fun fact for you. And then come changes in libido, loss of bone, changing cholesterol levels. And this really did surprise me. I didn't know that happens during perimenopause, and kind of explains why even though I eat really well and I exercise, I found out I had high cholesterol. Apparently this is quite common because there's less estrogen, which affects the blood cholesterol levels. Now, so these are all the signs that you may be going through perimenopause. But now I want to talk about why this all happens. Because even though it feels like our bodies are rebelling against us, there's a real biological reason behind every single symptom. And we're talking about biological reason for now. I'm going to talk about the psychological reasons later. But for now, let's focus on the biological reason. So during perimenopause, your estrogen and progesterone levels start to fluctuate, sometimes really wildly. And these two hormones have far-reaching effects, not just on your periods, but on your brain, mood, sleep, metabolism, skin, joints, immune system, even your cardiovascular health. So let me break a few of them down. So the first one is the mood swings and emotional sensitivity. So when estrogen drops suddenly, so the serotonin, unfortunately, that feel-good neurotransmitter that stabilizes mood. So this explains why you may be feeling more emotional, anxious, or irritable than usual. And low progesterone also means less of its calming, soothing effects, which can make everything feel much more intense. And then there's a sleep disruption and night sweats. Estrogen helps regulate body temperature. So when it fluctuates, your brain sometimes thinks you're overheating, triggering the night sweats or the hot flashes or flushes. Progesterone also supports deep, restful sleep. So when it dips, you may find yourself waking more often or struggling to fall asleep at all. And then we've got anxiety and heart palpitations. Again, this is often down to estrogen and cortisol clashing. Estrogen usually keeps the stress hormone cortisol in check, but when estrogen dips, cortisol can spike, which leads to symptoms like racing heart, feelings of panic, or even mild chest tightness. And again, this is something I've experienced personally, and it's really freaked me out. When the heart palpitations, I thought there was something really medically wrong with me. I thought I was having a heart attack. So it really does help to understand that it's normal. This does happen, but it passes. Which brings us back to the hot flushes, that they happen because your hypothalamus, the part of your brain that regulates the body temperature, becomes more sensitive during estrogen withdrawal. Sometimes, I know. It misreads the signals and activates your body's cooling mechanism, even when you're actually not hot. And then we've got brain fog. Estrogen is neuroprotective. It helps maintain synaptic function and blood flow in the brain. So when it drops, many women feel forgetful, scattered, and mentally fuzzy. And it's good to know it's not that we're just getting old. It's actually a chemical reaction in our brains. And then gut changes and bloating. Believe it or not, estrogen and progesterone also influence your gut bacteria and how well your body processes foods. So when these shift, you may experience bloating, new sensitivities, or changes in digestion. So here's the thing. These hormonal changes don't just happen in a smooth, gentle slope. They happen in spikes and crashes, a bit like a roller coaster. So, you might be sitting there just calm, relaxed, and slowly going along. Then you kind of go slowly up this, incline. And then before you know it, you're dropping down. And then you go back up again. So that's how, if you're going to use a metaphor, I think a roller coaster ride is pretty much it. It's not so much fun though. One day your estrogen may be high, the next it plummets. So it's really quite unpredictable. So no, you're not imagining things and you're not going crazy. Your body is rebalancing itself while also carrying the emotional load of everything that you're living through or you've lived through in the past. So understanding the why behind the symptoms helps us meet them with more compassion instead of frustration or fear. It helps us work with our bodies, not against them. So I always feel like it's better to have more information to understand what's going on as opposed to just not knowing. And while the physical symptoms can be intense, there's also something deeper that often catches women off guard, which is the emotional and psychological shift that I mentioned earlier. Because let's be honest, it's not just about the hot flushes or the running to the toilet. It's about feeling like a stranger in your own skin sometimes. You start questioning your identity, your purpose, your relationships, and sometimes everything all at once. So of course it's overwhelming. And there's a growing body of research that shows just how much hormonal fluctuations impact mood regulation. Estrogen isn't just a reproductive hormone. It affects neurotransmitters like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, which all play a role in how we feel, how we handle stress, and how resilient we are in face of change. So when estrogen and progesterone drop, it's normal to feel more reactive or emotionally raw, disconnected or numb, unmotivated or overwhelmed, uncertain about who you are or where you're going. It can feel like a fog is rolling in, and not just around your brain, just your whole sense of self. And what makes this even more complicated is that perimenopause often hits at the same time as big life shifts. So children may be growing up or leaving home, careers changing or maybe feeling unfulfilling, relationships feeling strained or empty, parents aging or needing care. So it's no wonder that so many women describe this time as a kind of breaking open. I mean, I kind of felt this myself. I changed my careers when I got into my 40s after having my fifth child. So this kind of makes sense because I questioned my identity. Was I just a mother, a wife? I also wanted to have something for myself that felt true for me authentically. I wasn't just doing a job just for the sake of just making money. I wanted to really feel aligned with what I was doing in my life and how I was evolving. I was different in my 40s to how I was in my, 30s or 20s. So here's one thing that I've kind of realized, that sometimes breaking open is exactly what the soul needs. Because once you see what's no longer working, you can begin to choose differently. So it's not just the estrogen and progesterone drop, it's also the time when we see clearly and we realize if we're out of alignment and we finally stop tolerating things that are draining us. So it didn't really surprise me when I found with the Office of National Statistics that 60% of UK divorces are initiated by women aged between 40 and 60. And this was reinforced by the Family Law Menopause Project in partnership with Newson Health Research and Education. In the 2022 survey, they found that 73% of women said that menopause contributed to the breakdown of their marriage. And this I also see in many of my clients who are in midlife, who are finally processing trauma that they've held on for decades by finally allowing themselves to feel it rather than just pushing through it, being the superwoman and just, to please everyone around them. They've had enough. So they're finally they're allowing themselves to feel and process what's not serving them anymore so that they can actually be true to themselves, be authentic. If this idea of holding on to trauma resonates with you, I really urge you to read The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, because he explains how unresolved trauma gets stored in the body, which shows up later in your life as anxiety, chronic illness, autoimmune flare-ups, which I've seen in countless of my clients, so I can definitely vouch for that. Because in perimenopause, all that suppressed emotion comes up to be healed, and it has to be, because it has to come out somehow. And then which brings me to the part that changed everything for me in my research. I found that menopause is rare in nature. Most female mammals reproduce until the end of their lives, but humans and some whales don't. And again, this is something that I did not learn in biology. It's something, that I found out from my own research because it does interest me. I want to know how our bodies are working and what menopause is all about. So according to my research, species like orcas, belugas, they live long past their reproductive years. And science believes it's because of the grandmother hypothesis. The idea that older females were evolutionary essential for helping younger generations survive. So let's just take that in. I mean, that is kind of really reinforcing the importance of the older generation, the women who have no longer have those hormonal fluctuations and they're wise. They can lead the younger generations. So yeah, I like that. That's quite empowering. Women are not just here to reproduce and have babies, and once you're done that, you're kind of discarded. No, you don't have to be. Menopause isn't a malfunction. It's a superpower. Even back in Victorian times, menopause was happening, but it was misunderstood. It was stigmatized. And women who were going through menopause were often described as being hysterical or mentally unstable. But now we're reclaiming the narrative even more than ever before. I mean, I never heard about menopause when I was growing up. It was never discussed with my mum. I mean, my mum, she passed away when she was young, so I guess I never really got to speak to her about it, but I'm assuming she had gone through it before she passed. But now it's just great to see there is more of a conversation happening out there on social media, in the press. It's slowly gaining more talked about subject, which I think is good because, again, it empowers us. The more we know, the better for us, right? And it's not so stigmatized as before. And while doing my research on social media, I actually found a new term I've never heard of before, and it's called the cougar puberty. And I think that's a great phrase. It's definitely very different to perimenopause. It gives it more of a fun edge, and it's quite apt at describing the process. It's like a second wild, unpredictable, but beautiful awakening. And this transition isn't the beginning of decline, it's the beginning of power. It's the beginning of saying no when you want to say no, choosing yourself, and softening and strengthening. And asking yourself, who am I now, really? And just not caring what others think of you, just doing what you want to do, doing you. So I've got a few supportive practices that I suggest. It's not an endless list, just a few things. Firstly, I recommend you just track your emotions and symptoms if you haven't done this, just so you're aware of what they are. And then carve out 5 minutes a day, doesn't matter how busy you are, but just to check in with you to see how you're feeling. And I think this is most important, is just to talk to other women. I think it's the most healing of all, because the shame thrives in the silence. And when we talk about what's really going on, all the nitty and gritty with our friends, with our family, without fear or judgment, you remember that you're not alone. So this podcast and the retreats I run are all about creating safe, sacred spaces for these conversations, so we can walk this path together, so you can feel supported, seen and held. So please share this with someone who might need it. And if you do want more one-to-one support or to get involved in the retreats I run, the details are in the notes. So until next time, remember that you're not too much, you're not too late, you're arriving right on time into a new version of yourself, one that's more honest, more free, and more aligned than ever before. This shift isn't breaking you, it's remaking you. See you next time. Thanks so much for listening to Hot Flashes and Higher Self. And if something in today's episode spoke to you and you're feeling ready for deeper support, then you can book a one-to-one session with me. I work with women around the world to help them shift from stuck to self-led. And if you're craving real connection, movement, rest and reset, then check out the women's retreats I host. They're a beautiful mix of healing, hot yoga, incredible food and soul-deep conversations and connections. And you can find all the details at www.ls-therapy.com or come hang out with me on Instagram at Limitless Self Therapy. And you can also reach me directly anytime at Soraya@lstherapy.com. I'd love to connect. Take care of you, fill that cup of yours, and remember, your next chapter is already unfolding.